Dave, you ever look across at that person that you're married to and realize for the umpteenth time that you made the right choice?
Oh my God, every day.
Or maybe they made the right choice. I don't know which is which. We've been shopping at Reading Terminal Market a lot more for a number of different reasons. Number one, we just get, like from the butchers and stuff, we get a lot better cut of meat. You get a lot of the farm fresh eggs, from the good chicken.
Also the
ranchers.
eggs that are weirdly colored and oddly misshapen because the supermarket can't sell those kind of things.
Bright orange. I mean, you really realize how much better they are from the stuff you're getting at the grocery stores as soon as you crack that egg open. But there's a lot of stuff at Reading Terminal. And by the way, if you're ever in Philadelphia for a convention, Reading Terminal Market is directly across from the convention center. One of the oldest farmers market. And the thing is the size of like Grand Central Station. It's huge. And they've got restaurants and, places to buy
Is it like
groceries.
the one they have in Cleveland where it's all indoors, like in kind of a train station kind
which
of a
is like
situation?
West Side Market, which is also a lot of fun. But it's like that. It's in fact, it's very, very much like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and do they sell weird stuff like farmer peacock eggs?
Okay.
Or have you ever bought a peacock egg?
I've never bought. I've wanted to, and they've got quail eggs and stuff, all kinds of different stuff. But no, I've never bought
just by volume, cracking open a peacock egg is unnerving. You're very aware of what it is. Like a chicken egg, you can sort of hand wave away what you're about to eat.
Yeah.
But a peacock egg, you're just suddenly aware of oh dear Lord, what am I eating?
What is that? It got feathers? Hey, who's selling you eggs over there?
It's just a full bowl of biological goo. And you're like, oh God, I don't know how I feel about this. Anyway.
Well, so I like a little bit of Tabasco sauce and salt and pepper in my biological goo. But anyway, we're over there shopping as we do.
Sure.
And for a snack, I've been bringing in Evercrisp apples and Manchego cheese. Fantastic when I get nibbly at 2:00. Really good snack.
Just a drop of honey on the Manchego?
Yes, just a little whisper of it. But I'm like, hey, since we're here, let's go over that cheese shop and get some Manchego cheese. And she says, yeah, it's a great idea. We go over there and we're ordering that and the Castlevania olives. I know it's not Castlevania, but it's like 1 letter away from Castlevania, and I can't say it the other way.
So you just got to call it by a video game.
I'm sure I'm not the only person that orders Castlevania olives. But as they're doing it, we're sitting in front of this incredible display case that is just infested with cheese, like cheese all the way down. And we're just sitting there whiling away the time and quietly thinking to ourselves. And I look over at Carolyn and I said, are you thinking what I'm thinking? And she says, I can't possibly be thinking what you're thinking. And I said, Cheese of the Week Club. And she says, oh my God. Oh my God. She says, that's exactly what I was thinking. And I said, we'll choose one cheese that we've never had before. And there's at least 200 cheeses there. We'll choose one cheese that we never had before, and we'll buy a third of a pound, just a little bit, and we'll take it home and we'll taste it. And she goes, oh, and I'll make a spreadsheet. And we can have a spreadsheet that decides how we like this cheese and how we don't like the next one. And so my only demand was we start on the far left so we don't get confused as to what we've had before or not.
Right.
So we start on the far left. We get it was called a Chabris, Chabris. Delicious. And while we were at it, she says, what about some brie? She says, they've got a double cream brie over here. And I said, what have I been doing with only one cream in my brie? Of course we've got to have a double cream brie.
I've lived a pauper's life up until this point, yeah.
Dave, we walked out $75 later.
Minus the cheese? Jeez Louise.
Oh my God, but we've got so many cheeses to try. It's going to be such a great...
Is Chabris good out of only one goat in the world, and that's why it's $75?
There was one, I forget the name of it. We had it, and by the way, this is a true story. We got it from West Side Market in Cleveland, because remember, my in-laws used to live in Northeast Ohio. It was a special cheese they made in Ireland, of course, And what they did was they fed the cows the mash that was left over after making whiskey.
What?
And so these cows would
I have never heard the preamble of a more Irish story ever. Made a cheese based off a cow that we fed the mash of the. Oh my God!
Booze, farming, and dairy. What more do you want out of these guys? So they make the cheese out of the milk that is resulting from those binging sessions on mash.
Oh my God.
Yes.
And the cow in the meantime is like, how dry I am.
The cows are very happy. They are very happy cows.
And that's what you need for good cheese is very happy cows.
The cheese, by the way, delicious. Fantastic cheese.
So, Cheese of the Month Club. Now,
Yeah.
this logistical question. Did you ask the cheesemonger, which, by the way, is the greatest word in the English language?
Yes.
Did you ask the cheesemonger if they move their cheeses around in the case, or are they consistent
No,
with where they
now
put
you've
them?
given me something to worry about. I hadn't thought about that. I thought they were in some kind of order, but no, we did not ask about cheese ordering.
Because perish not, here's my fear. 6 or 7 weeks down, you might accidentally order the Chablis, Brad.
Well,
I don't want you to double your Chablis.
I imagine my chagrin at the Chablis. But that's what we're going to have to bring that spreadsheet in with us. We're going to have to start checking things off. I will not have a disorderly cheese of the week club.
And nor will we have a disorderly start, because I'm about to say hello, everybody, and welcome to Comic Lab, the show about Chablis and making comics.
And a nice double cream brie and the making of livings from comics. I must have had this.
It looks like somebody gave Brad some of that mash. I'm not sure.
I'm Brad Geiger, the author of the Webcomics Handbook on Substack and the creator of Evil Inc.
And I'm his pal Dave Kellett, cartoonist of Drive and Sheldon and co-director of Stripped.
And this week's Hour of Comics Advice is made possible by your support at patreon.com/comiclab. So Dave, let's talk comics.
Let's talk comics, my friend. We have a fantastic show for everybody. Brad and I were just going over the topics today and excited, champing at the bit.
Yes.
To jump into the show as we head into spring. And for me, San Diego Comic-Con is coming up. But Bradley, we've got a topic that you wanted to start off the show with, which is branding 101 for social media. And you gave me the short form pitch on this, and I'm excited to hear what you've got to say about it.
Well, it's something I really keep coming back to, emphasizing and re-emphasizing the importance of branding for people that do self-publishing like us. And there's so many lessons to be learned here that I thought it'd be great to kind of kick off the show with this. And that's this. I spend a little bit of time on social media, Blue Sky, and so forth. And you find a cartoonist that you're interested in, right? And think about how often you post on social media, just trying to get somebody interested in you. And the first place they go, of course, is to your social media profile. And this is where we need to talk about the basics of branding, because I go to this guy.
I want you to know that this is your Uncle Brad sitting you down and like, all right, have a sip of water. Here's what we're going to talk about.
You need to understand this because I go to this guy's social media profile and I see something like, well, I'm 3 wombats inside of a trench coat, and boy, do I like root beer. And I'm like, you fucking idiot. You had one job. Actually, you've got 3 jobs. I'm going to tell you what they are. But so when I talk about social media, I talk about how cartoonists have a lot of trouble with social media because they're always trying to be a little bit too creative. In other words, social media doesn't reward creativity so much as it rewards consistency.
Right.
And a lot of cartoonists just think, well, I'm just going to post my comic and that's it. And that's great. But if you want to build audience, you need to do more. And that's when we talk about the 4 C's. And when it comes to branding issues, we have a creativity problem there too. And you're trying to be too creative. And time again, when it comes to branding, what I want from you is not creativity. What I want is clear, concise communication. That's what branding is.
Yes.
And so I want you to, as soon as I get done with this sentence, I want you to hit pause on the podcast and go over to your most popular social media, your strongest one, and see if you can say yes to all 3 of these check marks that I'm going to give you. Okay. Your social media profile should do 3 things. Tell me who you are, tell me what you do, and tell me why you should care. I'm sorry, tell me why I should care. You should care because it's you. But tell me who you are, tell me what you do, and tell me why I should care.
Yes. Yes.
Now, here's the thing, and this is great.
That's a great summary. Just friend to friend, that's a great summary. Yes.
That's what I want. I don't want your social media profile to be cute. I don't want it to be lyrical. I don't want it to make me laugh. I want it to do 3 things. Those 3 things I laid out. Tell me who you are. Tell me what you do. Tell me why I should care. Now, just recently, Substack has put out a new feature where you can do live streams. And just to test the waters, I did a live stream last week, which was actually really, really well received, well attended. It was so good, I've already scheduled another one. But I was talking about this issue. And one guy that was in there, who is a very smart guy, very creative cartoonist, very nice guy. You can tell I'm about to kind of give him a little elbow here.
That's I'm hearing the Midwest Nice coming in. Yeah.
Wonderful guy. He's good to his mother.
Yeah. Everybody loves him.
Yeah. And he says, okay, because I said the 3 things. He says, okay, what should I put for number 1? And I said, what do you mean? He said, what should I put for number 1? Number 1 is, what is your name? He said, what should I put? I said, this is why I need to talk to you guys. This is not a creativity question. It's your name. You put your name. Only one of these questions should be difficult. Tell me who you are. You should be able to do that without thinking. Tell me what you do. Same answer. Tell me why I should care. You should take a little time with that. One's going to be harder. But it shows you how cartoonists are so twisted up in social media that when you ask them their name, they don't know how to answer you.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and I think that I just want to pause for a second, because I think what happens is, unlike the average social media user who's like, finds somebody interesting, sees a tweet or 2, starts following them, sees more tweets or 2, and then goes, you know what, I'm going to click in on their bio, and you know what, I'm going to follow them. But so they read one bio and then they're off with their day. But here's what a cartoonist who's starting in on Blue Sky or somewhere else is doing. They're reading 50 of these bios right in a row because they want to see what all their peers and heroes are doing. And they think, but I need to stand out. So I'm going to be, I'm 4 wombats in a trench coat and I love movies starring Paul Rudd when he's wet. Okay, that's my bio.
Paul Rudd is right up there on my list, too. I forgot what your second
thing was there. I forgot what you said root beer, and root beer is my best friend. That's what it was. Yours was much funnier. But anyway, because they feel like that has to be the clever point. The clever point has to come in the tweets itself, in the posts themselves, right? Because that's what brought people to them. When they're clicking into your bio, Brad is right. What they want then is brass tacks. Who is this person? What do they do? What am I going to get if I follow them, right? That's basically what they're looking for. So it's Brad Geiger, the cartoonist and creator of Evil Link and the webcomics handbook on Substack, and a co-host of Comic Lab, and he's an Eisner nominee and a winner of the, and so from that third point that Brad was saying is, why should they care? Brad could do something like appeals to authority, like Eisner, Rubin, Harvey, that kind of stuff. Or he could do a quote, also appeals to authority, like a journalist quote about something that he's done. A favorite way of describing his comic from a fan that particularly stood out in a way that Brad really loved. You get where I'm going with this. And all of this is to reinforce, like, hey, you've liked my tweets. In our case, you've liked my comics. You've liked my comics. Now here's a quick summary of who I am, where you can find more of me, and why you should follow me. And Brad is 100% right about all of that.
Yeah, the creativity brought him to your profile. Now it's time for clear, concise communication. Right?
And I think it's also, Brad, a sort of inability to, or a desire to not be seen as bragging, which is a form of what some artists feel when you're just stating facts. I create SheldonComics.com. I create DriveComic.com. That's not weird. That's not me bragging. I'm just saying that. And so, but cartoonists seem to, it's for the same reason that social media algorithms have made us avoid words like, hey, here's my Patreon. And so now you have to say all sorts of weird, cloud in the sky words like follow my pay,
use the @ symbol and use numbers.
Follow me over at the P, and you're like, all right, whatever. you got to say the thing that you want in life. So if you want someone to go to your website, you have to say your website.
Yeah.
And if you want someone to follow you, you have to say why they should follow you.
Yes.
And if you want them to go to your Patreon, you have to explicitly say the Patreon and give them a reason why they should be jumping in on your Patreon. So,
and I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt you, but I something you said brought up a topic I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. And that is this. You just talked about stuff that there's all strategies that people used on Twitter and Instagram and so forth when they realized that if you put, here's my Patreon, into a post, the Twitter algorithm would throttle that post immediately.
Yes. Which was legitimate. That was a legitimate thing that would happen. Yeah.
So they came up with strategies. One of the strategies was misspelling Patreon, using a 0 for the O and using the at symbol for the A, for example, right? So they would misspell Patreon. Another one was they would say, here's this thing on post number 1, and then in the first reply to the post or in a threaded tweet, they would put the Patreon URL in the second tweet or in the second post or in a comment to the post, right?
That's very clever. Yep. All right.
We developed a lot of ways
all the strategies,
around or trying to game the algorithm. I see people doing that on Blue Sky, and I want to tell you as a friend, at this point, we have no information at all, no proof that the Blue Sky algorithm is acting that way. In other words, I think right now, at least for the time being, and by the way, Blue Sky is going to have its own enshittification along with everybody else. But for right now, I think you can freely put that Patreon URL in the main post. I don't think you need to do all of those carryover strategies that we brought over from Instagram and Twitter. And again, Blue Sky hashtags. You can use hashtags to group content, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of proof that hashtags are doing anything for your discoverability. So be very careful. And this is a very natural, normal thing to do, is to bring over those habits from other social media. But right now, I think we should be kind of happy that we don't have to do that stuff. I'm not seeing any proof that Blue Sky is throttling any of those things. So it's a really good idea right now to kind of look at Blue Sky as a clean slate and to go from there.
Yeah. And part of the reason why I brought that up is that those algorithmic dances that we had to do on Instagram and on Twitter and elsewhere on Facebook, it starts to seep into how you feel about talking about your own art, where it feels weird to just state the fact of, hey, I got a Kickstarter going on, or hey, this is my Patreon, and here's the reasons why you should jump in. Because we all got so, frankly, abused by these large algorithmically driven social media systems that we kind of forgot that there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I'm Brad, here's my Patreon, here's 3 reasons why you should jump in, it's amazing. You know, hey, I'm Dave, here's my Kickstarter, here's 3 reasons why you should jump in, it's amazing. Nothing wrong with that. It is the quid pro quo of social media, is that I will help you build your social media platform, you will help me reach my audience when it comes time to monetize them. And Twitter broke that promise, and Instagram broke that promise, right? That the implied promise. And Blue Sky, I can tell you, just to follow up on Brad's point, Blue Sky, from my most recent Kickstarter, in no way that I could see, and in fact, in every way that was positive for us, did not limit or govern my linking out to third-party distributed fundraising platforms like Kickstarter. I could very clearly see significant numbers with much smaller user following than I had on Twitter showing up on Kickstarter. So yes, just to reinforce what Brad said, wipe your habits from what you did on Twitter and Instagram. Speak plainly, much like your bio. Hey, if you love my comics, jump in on Patreon, and here's why. Here's all the great things that you're going to get on my Patreon, or we're having a party, like Brad always says. And you can say it plainly. You don't have to do the weird social media dances, because Blue Sky at this point does not have those limiters on it.
Yeah. And just to wrap up this topic, because we came in talking about branding, I'm going to leave talking about branding. This is the thing that I want you to remember. Branding is all about direct, clear, concise communication. Okay. If you find yourself getting creative doing, you can put a certain amount of branding into your, a certain amount of creativity into your branding. The same way that I say I want you to put some of the creative thought into solving business problems, but I don't want you to be creative when you do your taxes, right? Those are two different creativities that are the one that's going to get you into trouble. Branding, I want you, it's a good idea, seriously, put a Post-it note and put those 3 questions. Who am I? What do I do? And why should people care? Those should be behind every time that you've got branding going out. Those should be kind of foremost in your mind. And it's going to improve your game an awful lot.
And remember, too, one last parting thought.
Yeah.
This change that you're about to make is 100% not permanent. You can change it again tomorrow, modify it. You have a slightly better way of describing what your URLs are. Yep, you can change it tomorrow. Because every new person that comes to your social media is a new chance to figure out a better way to get them to follow you permanently. And so I'm still tinkering with it 20 years into my social media platform use. And I'm sure Brad is, although I just want to say, not as frequently as we did when we first started, but it's still a work in progress of finding the absolute best way with the minimum characters of saying who I am, what I do, and why you should follow me. And Brad, I just think that's great advice. I really do.
Thank you. Well, speaking of great advice, we've got some advice for you coming from the sponsor of today's show, DreamHost. Now, if you're a longtime listener to Comic Lab, you know that DreamHost has sponsored the show in the past. And there's a reason that we're so happy to have them as part of our show then and now. And it's because we're big fans of DreamHost. I've been using DreamHost for well over 10 years. And Dave, well, you recently became a DreamHost customer, and you've been very pleased with your experience.
And I don't even know that it's so recent anymore. I think I'm a few years in at this point.
It might be.
God, honest to God, one of the reasons why Brad and I so willingly take on DreamHost as a sponsor of the show is because A, we love them, and B, we genuinely can tell you how happy we are with the day-to-day use of DreamHost and the technical support that we get, the prices that we pay, the things that we can do, and the ease with which we can do it. It has been, honest to God, the best host I've ever had.
Absolutely. And we're going to point you over to their website. If you go to dreamhost.com/comiclab, you're going to see some of these offers that they've got just for you, including a couple of hosting plans that if you're taking our advice, and you hear us say all the time, you need a website. You finally decide you're going to get dragged kicking and screaming in by what your comics uncles are talking about. This is the perfect opportunity for you. For example, they've got a level called Shared Starter, where you lock in for the first 3 years at $2.59 a month. And
Which is bonkers good pricing, by the way. For 3 years.
That includes a free domain, unlimited traffic, WordPress installer, automated WordPress migrations. Listen, the list goes on here. I'm gonna run out a show before I get to the bottom of this list. But it's also got, and I love this, Dave, a 97-day money-back guarantee. Now, I've heard of people giving a 30-day money-back guarantee and a 90-day money-back guarantee, but this is a 3 months and another week, 97 days, that if you're not happy, they'll give you a money back.
And I just want to say
guarantee.
how proud I am of my friend for his math right there. That was great. Great
you
on the
could tell
fly.
I was
math.
doing that on the fly.
Great.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm going to tell you about the second plan that they've got, which is a shared unlimited plan for $3.95, which is also still bonkers.
Yes.
It goes for 3 years, literally less than a price of a cup of coffee. You can have monthly hosting for shared unlimited. And what that gets you, aside from the other one, and the only reason I really want to personally kind of push this plan for you is that it's sort of plans for success in that 3 years from now when you're doing well. It's not only unlimited websites, but most importantly for me, it's unlimited traffic. And that's a great feature to have for $3.95 a month for 3 years. Yeah. So both of these are great options. And I again, Brad and I cannot say it enough how happy we have been personally with DreamHost as our host. And so head over to dreamhost.com/comiclab, DreamHost.com/Comic Lab, and check out the shared hosting plans. Check out all the features you're going to get. And know, because Dave Kellett has needed it a few times, the technical support and the technical help, which is done by real people who are genuinely and kindly taking you through whatever problem you, if you're Dave Kellett, most likely caused. It is a great service and a great host.
Absolutely.
Hey, gang, if you're listening while you work, take a minute to stand and stretch.
And while you're doing that, we'll tell you why you should join us on Patreon.
Yeah, because when you do, you'll get hours and hours of podcasts that we've recorded just for backers.
And exclusive Patreon posts that go even deeper on Comic Lab topics.
And you'll get access to our exclusive Discord server, a thriving community of professional cartoonists.
So you can support the show you love and get tons of actionable resources for your own cartooning.
And ho Nelly, if you want even more comics goodness in your life, check out the new drawing show that we're doing with our pal Kevin McShane over at wrongwayshow.com. That's wrongwayshow.com.
In each episode, we'll show you how to draw your favorite cartoon characters the wrong way.
Now, everybody, let's talk comics.
Oh my goodness, Dave. You know, that music can only mean one thing, and that is that it's time for our good friend Susan MacTaggart to come through and give a personal affirmation to one of our $10 level Comic Lab Patreon backers.
Bradley John, great to see you, Bradley John.
It's nice to see you.
What
And
a
you're
lovely
looking very
spring
nice.
day for Bradley. That's what I always say.
You're looking very nice today, I must say. I've never seen a red dress with flip-flops, but you pull it off very nice.
Oh, Bradley, you're very kind. But I must warn you, Bradley, I'm a married woman. Bradley. It's something that I would say if I wasn't interested in those gorgeous eyes, Bradley John. Oh, that's something I would say. Anyway, who do we have for a personal affirmation today, Bradley?
Well, today our lucky Comic Lab listener is Craig Russell.
Craig Russell. Oh, my goodness. Doesn't that sound like some sort of movie star?
Yes.
Craig Russell.
Yes.
Craig Russell starring in The Bombs Must Go Off. Craig Russell starring in Only for Tomorrow. Craig Russell starring in These Hands Mean Justice. Doesn't it sound wonderful?
Oh my God.
I was kind of
wanna
hoping
see
you would
every
help
one of
me
those.
jump in on there with some
Hopefully-
titles, Bradley John, but you didn't seem to want to help me. You left me blowing in the wind, Bradley John.
Hopefully one of those movies has a moist Ryan Reynolds in it.
Bradley John. Well, let me talk to Craig. Craigley. Can I call you Craigley? No, I don't think I can. It works in English. Craig, I'm just going to call you Craig. Can I call you Craig? Okay.
You might need to open up the door in that podcast closet. I think the oxygen level has gotten a little low.
Oh, Bradley John, I think the menopause is kicking in. I'm turning very red. So, Craig, I just want to tell you, Craig, you are a limitless well of creativity. Limitless. You're a limitless well of creativity, which is why you're staring at a blank page, questioning every life decision and saying, well, no, Craig, that's my affirmation for you today, my friend. Go forth and be wonderful. Be wonderful this week, Craig. And Bradley John, I say to you, continue to be the wonderful little muffin that you are, the little muffin top. That's something that I would say to you if you went too much to that Reading market. Oh, Bradley John, I'll see you next week, Bradley. And Craig, have a wonderful week, my little Craigley. My little Craigley, that's what I'm going to leave you with.
Susan MacTaggart, ladies and gentlemen, everybody else, Susan MacTaggart. It's so good for you to join us once again. All right, Dave, now that we're back from our Susan MacTaggart break, we've got an update on the show, and it comes from our friends at the National Cartoonist Society.
We do indeed, Bradley. This is that time of year where the National Cartoonist Society, the NCS, announces first, before they announce their Silver Reuben nominees, they first start with, I guess it's not the Golden Reuben nominees, it's just the Reuben nominees.
It's the actual Reuben Award,
The big Reuben Award nominees. And this is for Outstanding Cartoonist of the Year.
Yeah.
And there are 6 nominees this year. And I just thought I would give a quick shout out to the 6 because they're all very deserving of the nomination. Dave Blazik of Loose Parts, Tawheed Bondi of Crabgrass, who we've had on the show, Will Henry of Wallace the Brave, very talented, Mark Parisi of Off the Mark, Dana Simpson of Phoebe and Her Unicorn, who we had on the show, Mark Tatuli of Leo, and Desmond Puckett. And congratulations to all 6 of them. The winner of the Reuben Award will be announced. Is it Labor Day weekend, Brad, or somewhere thereabouts, right?
Yeah, later on this summer.
And you can go check out, if you'd like to join us over at the NCS Reuben Award weekend, over at reuben.org, I believe it is. I should have had that ready for you, but I believe it's reuben.org, REUBEN.org. And so congratulations again to those 6.
And it's going to be in Boston, August 14th through the 16th this year. And we're going to have a lot of fun. It was amazing. I realized that 3 out of those 6 we've had on the show, because Blazix has been a guest as well.
Oh,
so
that's
we've
right.
Had
yeah, but it was a delightful cast. Yeah,
yeah,
so apologies
we
to
had
Dave
3
that
out
I
of
forgot.
6 and hopefully more to come. What a great group of people. I don't remember being this excited over a group of Outstanding Cartoonist nominations as I am this year. Maybe I'm just, maybe I'm getting sentimental in my old age, but those are 6 really good cartoonists.
Now, let me ask you this as a friend, and we don't need to say it on the show, but you can make some sort of physical or emotive sound. Do you have a favorite that you would like to see win?
You know what? I don't. I'm being completely honest, I'm going to have a hard time with my ballot. I could make an easy. I could easily vote for any one of them. I don't know who I'm going to vote for. For me, it's a clear 2, and if either of those 2 were to win, I would be very happy. That's one way to say it. And I just want you to know, to all 6 that are listening, you are absolutely in those 2. Yes.
I just want to make that very clear. So, Brad, let me jump us into our next question that comes in over at patreon.com/comiclab. And this comes in from Jay. And Jay writes, "Hi, gents. I recently finished up a children's book that I was hired to illustrate by the author." And I emphasize that because that's going to come in here in a second here.
Yeah.
He's got 500 copies en route, and he's just puzzled me with a question that I can't answer effectively. How do we sell the damn thing?
Yeah.
Of course, he has Amazon, but that feels like it might be an oversaturated market. I advised he build a website to promote it, but honestly, beyond that, I wouldn't know where to start. Please help, as I have grown attached to this project and want it to succeed. Kind regards, Jay. So, Brad, just to sum up again from that first sentence, the author hired Jay as an illustrator.
Right.
And then now that the book is made and en route, they are looking for solutions of how to sell the thing.
What are we going to do with it now that we got it? Like the dog that finally catches that car he's been chasing. So here's the thing, Jay. We got to have a real serious talk about this, and because this is important to anybody else who's listening that might be in a similar situation. You were hired to do a job, right? And you did that job. This person hired you to do the illustrations. I would imagine you got paid. I don't know what the contract that you signed. Hopefully there was a contract. I don't know what that contract stated, what your remuneration was, but you were brought on board on this. And I want to say to you and anyone else listening who finds themselves in a similar situation. Remember how I gave you 3 questions at the beginning of the show? Handling this situation is actually a 2-step process, okay? So what you do, Jay, is this person asks you how you're going to sell the books. Step 1 is turn 180 degrees. Step 2 is run as fast as you can. This is not your job, Jay. And unless you're going to be brought on and get a bigger cut of the royalties or something like that.
Right.
And we're going to talk about that in a minute too, but you should in no way, shape, or form be responsible for the marketing, promotion, and sales of this book. Now, I want to talk to the guy that hired Jay, because Jay said something else in his question. He says, of course, there's Amazon, but it feels like it might be an oversaturated market. Okay, now, Jay's a writer. I'm going to talk to the writer now. If you're asking somebody for advice on selling your book, and he says, I don't know if I like Amazon. One thing I don't like about Amazon is they got so many damn customers there.
It's too many people.
Too many customers on Amazon. That's too many people who've already got their fucking credit card numbers already in their account. What I want you to do, writer, is to turn 180 degrees and run as far away from him as you can. The best case scenario is both of you run 180 degrees away from each other. This is not good. Neither one of you should be making decisions. Good luck with your book.
Well, yeah. So, Brad, one of my favorite things in life is when I go to a restaurant and I order my meal, I place my order, and then the chef comes running out and asks me how to cook the mashed potatoes. That's one of my favorite things. Is so I noticed you ordered the mashed potatoes. How do I make that? And that's a little bit what this feels like. Is that so the good news, Jay, is that morally, commercially, capitalistically, you have done what you were hired to do.
Yeah.
You produced your best work that you are proud of, as is evidenced by your question. You turned it into the author. They went and got the book printed. And now a whole separate series of questions that, to Brad's point, is not related to you comes to bear, which is, did this author build a crowd before they went for their funding, so to speak? As we always say with crowdfunding. Did they have a website going? Were they slowly releasing pages? Do they have an existing fan base that they can sell to? Did they have any sort of business plan before they wrote that check to the printer and had these 500 books en route? Or did they just go, I'll figure it out as I go? Which is what it sounds like here. So. But I will say this, as friends, emotionally, we get it. You have turned in work that you're proud of and you're excited and you want this to get out to all sorts of people and to the wider world. That's understandable. But it is worth remembering that at this point, this is not your job because you were a hired illustrator. If, as Brad pointed out, you were cut in on the profit sharing of these 500, or perhaps even if it was something like, hey, if we sell through these, I'll get a second book and hire you again. Even there, I could kind of see you trying to make this a success. But right now, it's like saying, hey, Brad, I'm hiring you to mow my lawn. Oh, you mowed it really good. Now I need you to get me some friends to come over and enjoy my lawn for a picnic, you know? Like, no, that's not my job. You hired me to mow a lawn. I mowed your lawn. You get your own friends, you know? You set up your own picnic. So, Jay, I see why on a personal, emotional, and career level, you want the book to do well. And so absolutely, there's nothing wrong with you promoting it, you putting it out to the circles that you want to get it to, you walking it around to editors perhaps at a Comic-Con, or you submitting it for a sample to further work for other artists, for other publishers. All of that's fine, but it's not on you. The onus is not on you to sell these 500 copies.
Right. Yeah, and not only that, but this is, and this sounds like really mean advice, but we really do have your best intentions at heart, because you could get absolutely sunk into this whole thing where now you're doing the marketing and promotion of this book. Maybe you're getting paid for it, maybe you're not. Again, we don't know what the contract you signed, but you are in a relationship with somebody who had a book printed and doesn't have a plan for selling them. You should. Yes. This is not a relationship I want you to nurture.
Cultivate,
You are much better going on to the next project. And I get it. You say you want to see this book go out into the world. And that's fantastic. But like Dave said, there are other ways to do that. Your best bet is to go on to your next job and go on to your next project, whatever that may be. And then put this into your rotation of things that you promote every now and again on social media. Do your part. You absolutely should do your part in promoting it and so forth, but making decisions on how to sell this thing, like, should we put it up on Amazon? Should we not put it up on Amazon and stuff like that? And once we put it up on Amazon, what should we do with it next? All of those things, you really do not need to get tangled up with. And again, I guess I come back to this. I don't want to cultivate this relationship. It sounds like the blind leading the blind, and there's not anything good that's going to come. One of you should know what they're doing. and it doesn't sound like that's the case. So I want you to go on to the next project for your own good. For your own good, I want that to happen.
Yeah, I'm really glad because I hadn't put it in those terms that this is not a relationship that you want to cultivate. No. If someone has gone so far as cutting the check for the books and they're en route and then they're going to figure it out as they go. And listen, have I done stuff like that in my own career with my own work? I have. And has that been a learning moment for me? Absolutely. But has it ultimately been work that I did in a book that I created and then a book that I had to market? Yes. Yeah. But you are in a very different relationship here. It's almost a parasocial relationship in the sense that this is not your circus. These are not your monkeys, as that weird phrase always comes up. Yeah. This was a job you were hired for. You did the job. The job is done. Yeah. Now your job, Jay, is not to promote the book per se. Your job is to use the book to promote Jay. Yes. Right? Yes. And that's a key difference. Your job is to use the book as a printed sample piece that can now say to people, look how good my finished work looks when printed, right? Yeah. And so in that regard, you are using the book, but to a very different end than the author is using the book. He or she is trying to find recompense for the cost that they've put out into the world and the work that they've put out into the world. Your job is to use the book to promote your next gig or your next project or your next job. That is what you are meant to do in this situation.
Amazingly enough, this is turning into a theme show, because this is a question of branding. If Jay knew the answer to question number 2, this would not be an issue. Question number 1 is
Tell me what you mean.
But question number 1 is who am I? And Jay knows who he is. Question number 3 is tell me why you should care, and we'll get to that. What was question number 2? Tell me what you do. Now, drawing the illustration, that's what Jay does. And that's part of, I'm sure, Jay's branding. But selling books, marketing books, promoting books, that's not Jay's brand. It might be a bigger part of what he does when he self-publishes books, but this is not Jay's brand. He's not a book promoter. He's not a book marketer. He's not any of, it's not, in other words, Dave, if you wanted to take one of your books and you wanted to get increased sales on it, you might take it to a number of people who brand themselves in the doing of that function. Right. Jay's not one of those people. No. He's got a different brand.
And if you were to take it to one of those people, there would be a check cut to say, I need you to help me promote this book and get it into sales channels. Yeah. Okay, I will do this service. I will require a check for X amount. So, Jay, if the author is willing to cut you a check for X amount, you could learn book marketing and sales real quick. But right now, you did the job that you were hired for. And so I think you need to separate out the 3 or 4 issues of issue number 1, you delivered on the thing that you were hired to do. That's the most important thing to remember. Issue number 2, it is not your job to sell the book. This is not your book, quote unquote, right? It is a book that you should be proud of. It is a work that you should hold up to the world with pride. There's nothing wrong with that. But the responsibility of selling this book is not your job in this moment, right? The responsibility you have is using this book as one piece among many to get you your next job or to build your audience or to go. And that's not even Machiavellian. It's just stating things as they are. That's what your role is with this book now.
Yeah. And if you do get wrapped up in this, what we're concerned about is that you get wrapped up in doing this and maybe you get remunerated, maybe you don't, but it takes time away from that next thing you should be working on at this point, right? And it gets you all wound up and you can't go to the next thing because you're still tied up with this other thing that you've already completed. That's the real danger here is time management. This is a time management issue.
Can I tell you what just another issue, this is parallel to that, is you had said you need to worry about remunerating, right? Yeah. And it made me think how did English get to that word?
Remunerate. It's so hard to say. It's
like
so
who
hard to
said
say.
like, hey, I'd like to get paid. Wait. Before you say that again, but this time let's come up with a 50 times more impossible word to say.
Yeah.
Instead of saying getting paid or making money. How about remunerate? That sounds like an impossible word.
Yeah.
Like what? How do you get there as English? Like, hey, I'd like to make money on this. Or hey, I'd like to get paid back for this.
Yeah.
How about remunerate? Oh, that sounds great.
How about, I'm not going to pay you. I'm going to remunerate you. Now, if you could please head over to the egress, we can get on with our day.
That sounds like something the proctologist is like, now listen, we're going to need to remunerate you. And I'm sorry about that. It's just once a year.
He's got warm hands.
It's just once a year. We've just got to do the remuneration and then we'll know the details of your health. But anyway, yeah, I think we can put a button on that one because I think, Jay, you know where Brad and I stand. I mean, listen, also, not for nothing, congratulations.
Yeah.
You have illustrated a book and the book has come into the world. You
Yes.
are proud of the work. That is important. Both of those things are very important. You can use this, my friend, to get to the next stage in your career, and how wonderful. That is a good thing. So go and be well with your work that you have coming your way via Palette. That's great.
All
so Brad,
right.
let me jump us into our next question over at patreon.com/comiclab. This also comes in from a different Jay, though.
Oh.
And a different Jay writes, "Oh, wizards of comic wisdom. Have you guys ever thought of doing new IP original graphic novel independently without ever first releasing it online? Just spending time on it, quietly producing the work, and then attempting to release it on the world cold? Or instead of that, doing the whole book behind a Patreon or Substack paywall before you do a Kickstarter? Have you ever considered doing something like that goes against how you've run your career of free first?" All right, Brad, that is a question that I turn to you. Brad's already chuckling, so I know we've got a good answer on our hands.
I wrote Jay back and I said, when you say do a Kickstarter based on IP that you've kept behind a paywall, are you talking about something like Evil Ink After Dark, which was all behind a paywall until I did a Kickstarter? And he said, that's a good point, but no, I was talking about a completely new IP, something that you're not connected to through the free stuff that you do on your website. So I thought, so he's not talking about Evil Ink After Dark. What he's talking about, Dave, is something closer to a collection of the bonus cartoons, the single panel cartoons that I do on Patreon, or even more to the point, he's talking about maybe something, I'm going to just make up something silly. Let's say that you did a documentary about comics, and this would be IP that you've never put in front of anybody at all, but you run a Kickstarter for it, and then you put out that documentary.
Yeah,
Dave
you're right. I
Kellett,
guess I
would you
forgot I
ever
did that.
consider doing something like that?
Yeah, good point. So we have both done this. I mean, Brad's being sarcastic, Jay, but yeah, we have both done this with IP that the world has never seen and brought into book form. And it absolutely can be done. And I think in both Brad and my case, to be fair, and this kind of goes back to that earlier question about did the author bring a crowd before they ask for funding, is that in the larger picture of our careers, both Brad and I had built a crowd and built access to even bigger crowds via social networks to kickstart and fund those projects that had never before seen the light of day. So to kind of answer your question, Jay, it's not like we came at this, I'm always going to forget this Latin phrase, ex nihilo, out of nowhere.
Right.
We did have a pre-existent audience. We had a social network we could tap into that could reach us, people that had never seen us before. And we had a topic that we thought was compelling.
Yeah.
So it did work in my case with Strip to have IP that the world had never seen.
Mm-hmm.
But it did require that I had built an audience beforehand that I could tap into.
And a reputation.
The answer, and so the answer is yes, but it took a lot of giving away stuff for free and showing that I had an eye for quality and an eye for producing and delivering on my promises, if you know what I mean, Jay. So I had to basically prove myself for couple of years, if not a decade before kickstarting Stripped, that I was someone who kept my word, which is important with these kind of things, and who produced and had an eye for and had a love for and a passion for comics. So yes, but is my answer to your question, Jay. I've done it, yes, but I had to do it after I built an audience. And I think, Brad, you would have a similar answer.
Oh, yeah. Without being silly and everything. My answer is, I'd go one more than you, actually. Yes, but why? Why do I want to do this? What would be the benefit to me?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
In other words, it sounds to me like Jay's trying to find a shortcut or a loophole, right, to what we're talking about in this show for 6+ years now. We're in our 7th year, and we've been consistently talking about a very definite angle that we take publishing from. It almost sounds like you're looking for a loophole, because my answer is why? Why would I want to do that? What's in it for me to do that? What benefit could that possibly have?
Right. What does that path give me that the other path wouldn't?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, I do need to acknowledge, because I do see it happening more and more on Kickstarter, and it is kind of another path up that same mountain that we don't talk about as much, although we acknowledge that it's there, right? It's not something that you and I can talk about from first-person experience, and that is a number of cartoonists and comics creators who are using the social media aspects of Kickstarter to do almost all of their outreach. In other words, they're putting that first floppy comic up on Kickstarter, and they might get a very small number of people. But then, in the same way that Dave and I rely on our previous Kickstarter backers for our subsequent Kickstarters, they reach out to Kickstarter number 1 when they're doing Kickstarter number 2, and they build a bigger audience. And of course, Kickstarter is the one platform that really delivers on discoverability. They've got something magic there. I really don't see that level of discoverability anyplace else, which is one of the reasons that when some Kickstarter clones were becoming a little bit popular a few years ago, people would write in and say, "Are you going to try one of the clones?" And again, my answer was the same thing. Why? Why, when you've got something that delivers this kind of discoverability? So yes, there are some people, there are some creators out there who you can point to, who are clearly, yes, they are doing social media and so forth, but their main output, their main thrust is doing this stuff on Kickstarter, building the audience, and then taking it on to the next one and the next one and the next one. There's definitely a pathway for that. Again, I think you have to, in something like that, you would bet all you've got to prove yourself. See, Dave and I can prove ourselves by a whole archive full of stuff that you can go look at. And the fact that when somebody says Brad Geiger, they know that most likely, they've seen things on Blue Sky, they've seen things printed here or posted there and so forth. And again, that goes back to reputation. If you're going to do that second way that we're talking, the Kickstarter only route, you'd better have previews and sample images that look and read incredible, because that's all you got. All you got is that concept that you're pushing, the preview art, and whatever you can get to stick in somebody's mind in terms of compelling storyline beats that you're sharing, because you're going to live or die by those 3 things. It's not a great fit for Dave or I, but that doesn't mean that there aren't other ways to do it. And again, the other thing is that when you're talking to 2 guys that have been publishing on the web for as long as there's been a web, and you say, "Have you ever considered?" The answer is always going to be yes. we sit around considering things all day.
I mean, it's
you're not going to find something we haven't considered.
Because we maintain a certain level of not panic, but concern about what's coming down the pipe. I mean, listen, as we're increasingly heading towards a recession, both Brad and I are like, listen, how could we change up or modify or boost our income on this stream if that stream dries up? And so the answer, Jay, is yes. Yeah, we do kind of talk constantly with each other and with a bunch of networks of friends about what we're doing, what we're seeing working, both in independent video games, independent publishing, independent arts that are not comics. What's working and what are people doing, and could you do it this way? And we watch very closely. We may not say it on the show, but we watch very closely when someone tries a new way of doing a thing. And you can bet your bippy that Brad and I are on the phone going, "Why did they do it this way?" Or "Let's break this down." All right, so did that work? What would that have cost him? Why did she do it this way? And so let's talk just for a second, Jay, about why someone would choose to do a project without showing it to the world and then release it. I mean, the most immediate one that I can think of is you are the type of personality that finds your creativity is more attuned when you are not beholden to a public that is waiting for the next page or waiting for the next chapter. I could see that being an advantage. A second advantage is the ability to continuously edit. You get to the end of the project and you say, you know what, chapter 2 is useless. I'm getting rid of chapter 2 entirely. I'm going to move chapter 3 up to become chapter 2. Chapter 1 is now going to become chapter 4. You get where I'm going with this. By not releasing it to the world, you can edit up until you the day before, and you're good to go. There is the ability to sort of work in peace, which is an extension sort of the first one. You can set your own pace. That's a different one, but related. There are a lot of values that I could see being useful. But I have found, Brad has found over the past 20, 25 years, there's also a lot of value in product testing as you're making it. What's working? What are you communicating well or poorly in the story that needs course correction? What are people really excited about? What is the audience responding to? And then also, what are you enjoying as a reaction from your audience? And is that the reaction you wanted? If not, you can course correct. And also, all of that is happening while you are building the audience for the eventual book. And so it is a way that we have come to find to be really effective, both in the creativity and in the business angle of the eventual book that's coming out. You know,
since the very beginning of webcomics, the question has always been, will they buy a book if they've been reading it online? In fact, we were talking to somebody who does a very, very good comic, and that person said, "Oh, I don't think I want to put a book together because my readers have already read that stuff online." And Dave and I just about jumped.
And by the way, if you knew this cartoonist popularity and knew what they were capable of in terms of crowd reach and stuff, you would have had a little heart attack like we did.
Yes,
because we're like, of course they will buy this. Yes.
And that's what it's. See that when we talk about, well, would you ever consider? That's the only thing that I could see somebody being scared of, where they like, well, they're not going to buy my book because they always read it online. The thing about it is that what we have found is when you put a good comic out, people will absolutely buy that thing because they know it's good. And by the way, forget about everything that I just said. We are in the year 2025 now. Not only has this been true for 25 years, it's going to get extra true because already younger people are rediscovering physical media because they have had the experience of subscribing to a streaming service and then having content taken off.
Yes.
And they've had the experience of trying to find something. And as the streaming services are receding now and taking content off of their servers, they've had the experience of looking for something and it's not there. And by the way, this just happened. We're getting way off course, but this is a great example of what I'm talking about. The new JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is coming out and it's called Steel Ball Run. And I went ape shit to my kids because I said, clearly it's based on a 1981 Burt Reynolds movie, Cannonball Run. And so, of course, they asked what that was. And I was trying to describe it to them. And they said, oh, my God, we got to watch this. And I'm like, well, you're going to find it problematic, but I'm here for it. And of course, because it's in licensing hell, you can't get it on any streaming service.
Oh, is that true? You can't? Really?
You cannot. Oh, believe me, I looked. So, literally, you can find a $5 DVD. We're looking at buying a cheap DVD player because we're starting to see that this is not the only time this has happened.
No.
There's a bunch of movies and stuff. My other son's a huge Godzilla fan, and he wants to build his physical media collection. You hear 20-somethings and 30-somethings talking about their physical media collection. It's no longer just this guy down the street that's listening to Pink Floyd on vinyl, right? It's not that hipster. Right. We're talking about a whole bunch of young people that are seeing their content get taken up. So it's a whole bunch of people, and of course, people our age knew that was going to happen. You can go back to Webcomics Weekly and hear us talking about that this was going to happen with these services. So our generation knew it going in. This generation is learning it. All I can tell you is, are they going to buy your book so they can have it? Hell yes, they are. now more than ever. In fact, we're going to see my prediction. I don't know what the overall economy heading into a depression might look like.
A depression. You up the scales.
I've skipped recession, gone right into depression. Maybe I'm just talking about what's between my ears. But as we're headed towards an economic downturn, I don't know whether we're going to see it quite as much. But if you took all things being equal, I think you're going to see a big bump in physical media for that reason and more. Yeah,
and I've said this before on the show, but all signs point to when someone does buy a book, it actually matters if it's a quality book. So people don't just want a simple soft cover. And don't get me wrong, you absolutely can sell soft covers. I do it all the time. But there is something to be said for more of a bespoke, to use that terrible word, bespoke book that is an artisanal and high quality craftsmanship. Because like Brad was saying, people have gotten so burned on the mass media of books that when they do plunk down money, they're like, I'm going to keep this thing, and I'm going to keep it because it's a beautiful object itself, not just a transmitter of content. And so, it's funny how you're right, Brad, that this generation is growing up in a world where not only do streaming services lose rights constantly, not only do some projects fall into copyright liminal hell where they can't be released anywhere because 15 different parties have to sign off on it, but they're also growing up in a world where Warner Brothers and DC actively killed Batgirl and Acme versus Coyote, even though they were damn near done, just so they could take the tax write-off. Right. And so this generation is like, I feel doubly burned by content producers in this world about how they ask me to set my expectations about the products and the media that I buy and how much do I own it and how much. So yes, I 100% agree with you on that. And the short version is people will buy your book. They will buy your book.
Absolutely. Do a good comic, make a good book, and you can absolutely make that work. Unfortunately, you know what we can't make work anymore? We can't make any of this podcast work any further because, good golly, we've been at it for an hour and poor Dave over there is running out of breath. So it's time for me to say you've been listening to Comic Lab, the show about making comics and making a living from comics.
Your hosts have been my Chabris-loving friend Brad Geiger, the editor of webcomics.com and the Double Brie creator of Evil Inc. at evilcomic.com. And he's also the co-host of the fantastic new drawing show over at wrongwayshow.com.
And my good friend, you took the two good ones. I got nothing over here. The Manchego loving.
Pick a cheese. Hey, the cheesemonger had 500 varieties. Pick one.
He is a cheesemonger. Dave Kellett, the co-director of the comics documentary Stripped and the cartoonist of Sheldon at sheldoncomics.com and Drive at drivecomic.com, and another co-host of the fabulous new drawing show at wrongwayshow.com.
And the Comic Lab theme song is used with permission from Andy Creighton at theworldrecord.net. And this episode was edited by Matt Woodard of Woodsong Productions over at www.woodsong.media.
If you love Comic Lab, you can rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts. You may hear your review featured on a future episode. And don't forget to give us a 5-star review on Spotify, where we are burning up those podcast charts.
And Comic Lab is made possible by your support over at patreon.com/comiclab. So we'll go ahead and say that twice. Patreon.com/Craigley is not a version of Craig. So I can tell you it was definitely a form of asthma attack because my Apple Watch says my heart rate shot up to 104.
Oh, my God.
As it was struggling to squeeze air out of me. And I'm just sitting doing nothing except talking. Good Lord. Oh, my God. Saying Craigley and then realizing how stupid that sounded. It was like I was like a kid. I couldn't stop. I was trying so hard to get back into character. Oh, anyway.
So my wife, speaking of being old and your Apple Watch chiding you for it, my wife was at a punk rock concert over the weekend.
Sure, as one does.
Yeah. And she goes, "We've got an extra ticket. Do you want to go?" And I said, "No, you guys." A friend of ours was the opening act.
If there's one thing I know about Brad Geiger, by the way, we should be recording. I guess we are recording this, but if there's one thing I should know about Brad Geiger is like lights and sounds and a lot of crowd. That sounds like your hell on earth.
No, it was like I was very happy to let her go with her friends, and it was just have a good time. And they all went. They went to see the dead milkmen. And she texted me. She says, you're 50 years old when you're out in the mosh pit and your Apple iWatch asks you if you fell down.